Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate Day 501. Tuesday, July the 24th, 2018. Thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you so much to all the great commenters on yesterday's two videos, congratulating me on TowerGate Day 500. You know, it's extraordinary. When I first started doing these videos, I didn't know how many videos I'd be doing. I didn't know how long. I knew it was going to take a long time to unwind the story. I was committed to following it. But I never thought about would it be 500 or 1,000 or however many videos. But as I say, I'm committed to following this story until we finally bring the perps to justice, whether it's 500 or 5,000. Okay, so I'm in it for the long haul. But thank you so much, everyone, for all the wonderful compliments and everything like that. I am happy to be able to come here every day and do these videos, and I really enjoy it. This is like, I guess, kind of a hobby. I don't feel like it's work for me. But anyway, I enjoy doing it. And I especially appreciate Gordon, who does a major contribution in the comments section. Posts comments almost all the videos I do, multiple comments on the videos I do, plugs in a lot of good information. Great person to have as one of the subs on the channel. I'm sure we all enjoy reading his posts. But Gordon suggesting I may need to take a little break. I may need a little rest. Well, that's kind of funny you should mention that, Gordon, because not this coming weekend, but the following weekend, I actually will not be doing a video on that Saturday and Sunday. Not this coming, but the following. Because I'm always joking with my girlfriend and her two kids that I tell them that without their digital, portable devices, that they might die. It's like I call it their life support system, because they're never apart from their little phones and stuff. Or they're just those people that love their phones and they can't detach themselves from them. So I've challenged them to a weekend camping with no digital electronics whatsoever, no internet, nothing. And so we're going to Hocking Hills, not this weekend, but the next weekend. Hocking Hills is a really great park. It's about a 2-hour drive from where I live, but it's some of the best biking and hiking trails that there are in this entire area of southern Ohio. And we used to go there when I was younger as a kid. Me and my buddies used to go there, do a lot of biking and hiking and stuff. It's just a great place to kind of get away and go out in the woods and just, do a little camping or whatever. So we're going to be doing that, not this weekend, but the following. No digital electronics allowed. So I'm going to see if my girlfriend and her two kids can tolerate 2 days with no digital electronics, see if they can survive the experience. They've never had that experience before. Her kids don't remember a time when there wasn't, a smartphone or a computer or something like that. They don't remember a time before that. So it'll be interesting to see if they can handle it, or if they go through withdrawal symptoms and I'll have to, resuscitate them or use some sort of call 911 or something like that. But hopefully they'll survive. They won't have any major reactions to it, and we'll have a good weekend camping, and I'll get them 2 days off that you're talking about, Gordon. Thank you so very much. Appreciate it. Okay, let's get to the news. Rand Paul met with President Trump this morning, advising him to revoke the security clearances of Susan Rice, James Comey, Jim Clapper, Andy McCabe, John Brennan, Mr. Potato Head, and Michael Hayden. And he has two issues, really. Number one, the issue is when you leave government, should you keep a top secret security clearance? And specifically, these individuals, because of their political activities. So it's a very good question. I had a top secret clearance in the military, but the day that I left the military, I assumed I no longer had a top secret clearance. What need did I have for a top secret clearance? And I think what Rand Paul is looking at is that, I guess what he's thinking is that these guys still have access to certain databases. They still have friends in these agencies, and we know how anti-Trump they are, and there's always the possibilities that some mischief could take place. And there's just really no reason that they should have these clearances, particularly when you look at their behaviors. Anyone exhibiting the behaviors that some of these people are exhibiting should have their security clearances revoked, because it appears that they're not mentally balanced. I mean, Mr. Potato Head should not have a top secret clearance. I mean, he's clearly got a major case of Trump derangement syndrome, and it could be dangerous. So, yeah, it is a good idea for Rand Paul to make that recommendation, and that's the way it should be. When you leave your position in government, you should lose whatever clearance you had, and you certainly should not be able to access databases, government databases and things and such. You should not be able to do that. So anyhow, it's good thinking on the part of Rand Paul, and he's been very good He's always is very good. He's just very principled, and sometimes if you're on the wrong side, he looks stubborn. But he's principled like his father was. Not quite as principled as his father was, but still pretty principled. But he's really had President Trump's back during Helsinki, after Helsinki, when everyone else was dumping on him. Rand Paul was out there defending him. So I think Rand Paul has Trump's back in a lot of ways, even though they had a bit of a nasty little dispute during the primary campaign. Rand Paul, he got over it, and Trump got over it, and they played golf quite a few times, and I think Trump's worked with Rand on his ideas for healthcare reform and things and such. So I think that they get along pretty good, and I think Trump trusts Rand Paul. I think he knows that he's not like most of the players in Washington, that he's actually a genuine, principled individual, and that's a good thing for Trump. He needs someone like a Rand Paul, a guy you can really trust. I mean, I think Rand Paul is a guy you can trust. Very few of those in Washington. Rand Paul is one of them, I believe. James Wolfe. Of course, we all know James Wolfe was the individual who was arrested, indicted for leaking material, particularly classified material. They named 5 journalists. One of them was this Watkins, and they were all journalists from major mainstream news publications: CNN, MSNBC, NBC, New York Times, Wall Street Journal. He was feeding information to all of them. We assumed at that time in the indictment it was classified information he was leaking to them as well. And so now it's being alleged, they're pretty sure, it was a Sundance on Conservative Treehouse, saying they're about 99% sure that James Wolfe leaked a 2017 copy of the full FISA warrant on Carter Page to Watkins. So that being one of the things, and it may have been the thing that got him caught, or, now they're apparently still investigating. That investigation is still open. They're still investigating other leaks that he may have done, but other people involved as well. So he's not the only one, and that investigation continues. But apparently, Sundance is about 99% sure that one of the things he leaked was the 2017 copy of the full FISA warrant on Carter Page. So we haven't heard much. I mean, they arrested him, indicted him, and he's just kind of disappeared. We haven't heard much, but I imagine when his court date comes up, we'll find out if he's cut a deal. I assume he will cut a deal. He's guilty as hell. I don't. No, actually, he did plead not guilty. That's right. He pled not guilty. So we'll see where it goes in the trial. We'll see what happens. Saggy Daniels. It looks like things are getting worse and worse for Saggy. It appears now that she is getting a divorce. Yep, Saggy's getting a divorce. That can't be good. Certainly not good. Another broken family. I know she's got a kid. Probably tough as a kid if your mom's a stripper, especially a famous stripper. Now her husband handles it. I mean, I'd have a rough time being married to someone who was in the line of work that she's in. I'd have a rough time if my wife did that for a living, but I guess different strokes for different folks here. But for whatever reason, it appears that just another person with the Trump curse. It's becoming obvious that people who oppose Trump have bad things happen to them. At some point, they'll figure this out. It's not good to get on the wrong side of Trump because bad things can happen to you. And it looks like Saggy is the latest to experience the Trump curse. Couldn't happen to a crazier nut than Saggy. Okay, let's see. Devin Nunes is asking Trump to declassify the Carter Page documents. Yes, Devin Nunes, you, me, and everyone else, including Martin Meadows, the entire Freedom Caucus, and half the country, are asking him to declassify. But there is somebody in Trump's inner circle, one of his political, or maybe all of his political advisors, I don't know, who's telling him not to do anything like that. Right now, not to get involved in any way, shape, or form in declassifying and all these kinds of things. And I hope it's just the midterms is what they're talking about, that they don't want to create any problem, because I think they're telling him, hey, the most important thing, we have to hold on to both houses of Congress in the midterms. The House is dicey. Let's not do anything that could cost us the House. If we do, it could throw a serious wrench in all of our plans. We don't want Nancy Pelosi back as Speaker of the House or whatever. So I think he's just being told to play it very, very safe until the midterms. I expect he's taking that advice because he's probably hearing it from other people besides his own political people. But I do hope and I do believe that after the midterms, he's going to say, okay, you guys have told me to back off for all this time. I've been backing off. I've been holding my tongue. I've been backing off. But now I'm going to take this Mueller thing out. This Mueller thing's got to end, and I'm going to go to work on that, and I'm going to declassify stuff, and we're going to get to the bottom of what happened in 2016. So I think that this is probably his plan. I think he's biting his tongue. I think he's dying to get in there and rectify the situation. I just think he's getting a lot of advice not to do harm to a lot of Republicans. Could lose their seats, cost them the House, or whatever. So I think he's probably being very measured about what he's doing. But I do expect that after the midterms, we are going to see a completely different President Trump in terms of how he approaches going after the people who are going after him. And so we will see if that is correct or not. But that is where the situation stands right now, because it looks like right now they're signaling that he's not going to declassify anymore. But he may not. We'll find out. We have the anti-Trump, hardcore anti-Trump, New York Daily News announcing today that they are going to be laying off a lot of people, including their top 2 editors. They are losing about $30 million a year. And they're also announcing a slight change in direction. Now, they're probably the most anti-Trump, one of the most anti-Trump print media organizations that you're going to find. They're the ones who did the front page cover with Trump as a clown, talking about, well, this clown can't embrace 242 years of democracy or whatever. Then they did another one where he was on the horseback with Putin, and they're bare-chested, and Putin's rubbing his chest or something. So, they're way over the top. And they're kind of like the spin-off of the New York Times. They want to be the New York Times. They want to be like taken seriously as having serious reporters and stuff. But they cater to the over-the-top, and they try to mix humor with what they do, and it's quirky as hell. And they've been around for a long time though, and they used to have a big readership with the more blue-collar types, not so much the Wall Street people reading the New York Times. It was more, these were like, they were catering to the blue collar types in this in this particular New York Daily magazine. But they've just been so over the top with Trump derangement syndrome, and people are just sick of it. They just don't want to hear it anymore. And some news organizations who are part of much larger organizations don't care if they lose money. But in the case of the New York Daily News, I think that they do have to look at their finances a little bit, and they're losing $30 million a year, and they just keep seeing things go lower and lower and lower. And so it looks like the Trump curse is boomeranging back on them as well, and they're realizing that Trump's going to be around for a while. They're not going to impeach him. He is going to be around possibly for 8 years. They're going to have to find something else for the readers, because they've been going on this anti-Trump thing for 2 years, and it's driving their paper into the ground, because his support is growing amongst a lot of those people. And they're figuring that out. A federal judge has now released the names of the 5 people granted immunity by Uncle Bob the Executioner in the suit with Paul Manafort. So it looks like the initial report, which I think came from Tucker Carlson, that the Podesta, one of the Podestas or both, may have been given immunity, appears not to be the case. It appears that the 5 people who will be getting immunity in that Manafort case are James Brennan, I assume no relationship to John Brennan, Donna Dugan, Connor O'Brien, Cindy Laporta, Dennis Rako. No Podestas. So that is the names of the 5 people granted immunity by Uncle Bob the Executioner in the Mueller case, which has now been delayed until July the 31st, I believe. The FBI Russian spy, Maria Butina, it appears, was granted expedited entry into the United States by John F. Kerry, who, by the way, served in Vietnam. That's right, John F. Kerry, but not just Kerry, but Eric Holder. And she met with Obama and Treasury officials, meaning she met with Obama officials and Treasury officials in 2015 on multiple occasions. So now what do you make of that? And apparently this has been going on for years. She's not just, the last year or two. She's apparently been involved in some things for quite some time. And they've been watching her for, I think the article said like 5 years that they've actually been observing her. But they just now decide to use her. She just now becomes convenient. And when you look at, again, it almost reminds you of what happened with Maria Veselnitskaya. Maria Veselinskaya is not allowed to be in the country. All of a sudden, she's granted a special waiver, a special visa to get into the country. The next thing you know, she's taking pictures out of Senator Magoo's office. She's getting a front row seat into congressional hearings. She's apparently was there on a personal invite from, I think, was it Michael McCall? She's getting all this access. So now we hear that just a lot like Maria Veselinskaya, she gets a expedited entry into the U.S., and that's by Kerry and Eric Holder. She's meeting with Obama and Treasury officials. They seem to have no problem with that. That doesn't come up in her indictment at all. They don't say anything about it. They don't really care about it. The only thing they care about is the fact that she's now mingling with people in the NRA and various Republicans, and she's apparently going back to Russia with people and trying to fight for a Second Amendment in Russia. Well, isn't that a good thing? And isn't that a good thing if she's here promoting the Second Amendment? Why would it work in Putin's favor to help embellish the Second Amendment in the United States? Why would it be in Putin's best interest to see more Americans keep their Second Amendment rights? How is that a plot against us? It's a plot for us. And why would Putin have her back in Russia trying to push for a Second Amendment, which they do not want citizens to be armed in Russia, that's for sure. So none of it makes any sense, and you got to question again the timing of the indictment, the nature of the indictment. Just like the Podestas do all the same stuff Manafort does, but he's the guy getting indicted. And you look at Carter Page, there's lots of Democrat lobbyists that do work in Russia and Ukraine and various other places. Are any of them getting indicted? It's just that all these people seem to be getting specifically targeted, and it almost looks like they're part of a setup. You know, just the way that they get in the country, then they start meeting with certain groups, then all of a sudden how convenient they pop up and they become on the radar screen just in time to fit perfectly into a Trump-Russia narrative. It's just all too convenient for me, and there's definitely shady stuff going on here, my friends. Very shady stuff going on. Well, it appears now that Fox News executives have informed top reporters to cease and desist investigations into FBI and Obama-era officials. No more investigations at Fox. This is coming straight from Bill Salmon, I guess, who runs that particular division of Fox News. Now, we know he is very, very close to the Bush family. We know that he supported Romney. We know that he has spiked many pro-Trump stories. According to reporters there, he's been spiking pro-Trump stories, or stories that are did not paint the FBI or the CIA in a good light, the former administration in a good light. And reporters are actually listing the stories. They list like 14, 15 stories in the article that were spiked by Mr. Salmon. So it looks like they're dropping the hammer at Fox News. No more journalism at Fox. Now, you know, for the most part, Fox is not really known for their journalism. I mean, they're more of I look at them as more of a kind of a center-right, maybe right-wing, pro-Trump sort of it's a combination of entertainment and news. It's somewhere in the middle of entertainment and news, most of their shows. But, I mean, they got anti-Trump people there. They got Shepard Smith. You can't be any more anti-Trump than that. You've got, what's his name, Neil Cavuto, not a big fan of Trump. So you have anti-Trumpers. They have Democrats on the shows. They have people who disagree with Trump on their shows. So I don't know if they're that over the top. And as far as investigative journalism, I don't think they're so much known for their hardcore, investigative journalism. I mean, they got one really hardcore investigator, I guess. Catherine Herridge is their only real hardcore, really top-notch investigator. And then they have a bunch of people that they bring in as guests, like Sarah Carter and Jarrett, and they have people who come in to make commenters. But as far as actual hardcore journalists working for Fox, there's really not that much going on there. But you can assume that Catherine Herridge that's her deal. I mean, the girl, obviously, or the woman, I should say, obviously digs being a hardcore. She likes doing hard news and real hard journalism, digging, and that's what she kind of is, kind of like a Cheryl Atkinson. These are people who really want to be investigative journalists, and she's a pretty good one. My guess is if she's not going to be allowed to do that anymore, you will see Catherine Herridge gone from Fox, because she's not going to stick around to do puff pieces. I can assure you of that. That's not how she made her career. It's not what she wants to do. She's successful enough at this point that Catherine Herridge could go independent and probably make a hell of a lot more money. She could start her own, little media deal on YouTube, or get her own website, or on her own platform. She could easily get a radio show. Catherine Herridge has got enough cred that she could jump right into the independent media and probably make a hell of a lot more money and be a top-notch journalist. And she wouldn't be restrained at all. She could just do straight-up journalist. Maybe her and Cheryl Atkinson get together. They'd be a hell of a team right there. That's what she should do. Give Cheryl Atkinson a call. And those two put their heads together. That would be one nasty team of female reporters right there, because they can do some serious investigative journalism right now. So there you go. Fox taking a different direction. That's a little surprising. The guy who started Fox, of course, Rupert Murdoch, very, very old now. His kids run it now, his two sons, and we know they're far left-wingers, and they don't really like the Fox thing at all. They've been trying to go this direction for a while, but they dig the money, and they like being number one and all that kind of stuff. So I guess they've been hesitant. But, Rupert Murdoch was right there at the forefront when we ended the fairness doctrine back in the late 79, 78, 79, 80, something like that. 78, 79, or 80. Can't remember which year it was, but it was one of those years, late 70s, maybe 80, when they got rid of the fairness doctrine. And Rupert Murdoch was a big part of that. He was also a very big Ronald Reagan fan, and he was friends with Reagan. He met with Reagan a lot, had dinner with him a lot, would come to the White House, have dinner with him and with Nancy and Ronnie. And he would talk about this and talk about he wanted to build this great media organization, because there was no such thing as a conservative media organization when Reagan was president. It was ABC, NBC, CBS, and PBS. That was it. And they were all left-wing, and they all hated Reagan. So he wanted to get a news organization, but the Fairness Doctrine kept him from doing that. So they finally repealed the Fairness Doctrine. That's what opened the door for Rupert Murdoch. Now, he made his fortune selling those crazy magazines that you see at the grocery stores, the Globe, the National Enquirer, and those crazy magazines with aliens sitting there having, hear about aliens and Elvis having lunch in a diner or something. Yeah, so these are the type of magazines that was his empire. That's where he made his billions. And of course, he decided he wanted to get into like real news or something. So that's really, he was the driving force. And of course, he brought in Roger Ailes, and Ailes really took Fox to number one. So the young boys are very, very liberal. They don't like what Fox does. They've been liking the ratings, I guess, and the money, but it looks like they're going to go a different direction. So, I guess you'll see a lot of people vacating Fox, would be my guess. Okay, while Obama was speaking in Kenya, Africa, he said this will be like the second or third time he's made a slip up and stated that he's from Kenya. So he's making a speech in Africa and Kenya, and he said, quote, 3 years ago, I visited Kenya as the first sitting president to come from Kenya. Now, this is about the third time now that he has had a slip of the tongue and stated he was from Kenya. And I think we all suspected that was the case anyway. Born in Kenya, raised in Hawaii and Indonesia. Of course, yesterday I talked about when we were doing the recap of the 500 videos, and I pulled out a title from a video that was back from like over a year ago, where Paul Sperry had written a story in the New York Post saying that, making the claim, and he's usually right. Sperry is usually right. He's got a lot of sources, deep inside sources in D.C., and very connected. And he made the claim that the FBI paid Christopher Steele. Of course, they would never respond to it. Whenever they've been asked, they simply will not respond to the question. But it appears that if you go to page 15, page 15 of the FISA document, you will see that there is a paragraph there where it says, source number one, which has been identified as Christopher Steele. Source number one has been compensated by the FBI, and the FBI is unaware of any derogatory information pertaining to source number one. So there they are on page 15 admitting that they paid Christopher Steele, but they're saying that they're unaware of any derogatory information pertaining to source one. Now, I didn't look at the date on that, but if the date of that is anything past the middle of August, then they're lying, because at that point they knew that he was doing what he wasn't supposed to be doing as an informant working for them. He was feeding the media, meeting with reporters, meeting with Bruce Orr, meeting with other people. And when the FBI has you as an informant, they don't want you informing anyone but them. If you are informing anyone but them, they cut you loose. You're a liability. So I'm not sure on the date. I should have looked at that. But either way, the fact of the matter is, to say that they're aware of any derogatory information, they knew that he had a hardcore anti-Trump bias. A hardcore anti-Trump bias. No way that you would ever go into a FISA court and use someone like that as your star witness or your star source. They're highly motivated to lie. They're highly motivated to stretch the truth. They're highly motivated to they're not the type of people that you will want to represent as your number one source. But he was. Not just for the dossier, but he was the number one source for the article that they stated from Michael Isikoff at Yahoo News. And he was, essentially his work was what was in the Wall Street Journal article, which they also used. It was essentially circular, kind of like circular information gathering, circular evidence proliferation or something is what they had going on there. And Steele was the guy. And to say that, yeah, we're paying him, and because he's a straight-up guy, we can't find anything wrong with him. There's no way. You know, if they'd have told the truth about his political leanings and the activities he was involved in, he certainly wouldn't have met the definition of a great, solid, reliable, unbiased witness. Especially getting a FISA warrant, a Title I FISA warrant on an American citizen during a presidential campaign. That the FISA judges should have looked extra carefully at this. And someone needs to question those FISA court judges. I mean, I don't know who they are. I imagine their names are redacted. But good Latin, those guys, they all know who they are because they read this thing unredacted. Those FISA court judges need to be seriously exposed for who they are and what sort of things that they were thinking, because these FISA judges should never have accepted this kind of crap. They should have known better. Comey is begging Democrats not to go socialist. It's too late, Jim. I think that train's already left the station. And the funny thing is that when he put this tweet out, he got destroyed. I mean, I don't think Comey's figured it out yet. Nobody likes him. The left blames him because he came out and reopened the Clinton investigation a week before the election. And so they hate him for that. They think he cost her the election, which he really didn't. She wasn't going to win anyway. That really had nothing to do. I don't think that changed anybody's mind. It angered a lot of Clinton supporters and a lot of people who were hoping to have jobs. And that's what most of these people are angry about, is they were going to have jobs in D.C. if Clinton won, and now they don't. And they blame Comey for why they don't have their cushy government job. But he doesn't understand that the people on the left hate him and the people on the right hate him. He don't have a lot of friends in D.C. And pretty soon, he's probably going to have to make some friends in the pokey, because that's where he's going. He's deeply involved in all the criminal activity and the coup. And we're going to get there too. The FISA warrant, the dossier, the dossier, the story in Yahoo News that Steele was the source of, the Wall Street Journal article, which is essentially planted by the CIA and sourced by the FBI, was the primary information they used to get the FISA warrant. That's really what it was. The dossier, the Yahoo News story by Michael Isikoff, which Steele was the source, and of course the Wall Street Journal article they mentioned, which of course was planted by the CIA, which was sourced originally by the FBI. Circular evidence gathering. Man, when they finally get all this evidence out on the table and they sit back and look at it and they put all the pieces together and then they come up with the right, relatively short explanation of the narrative, and they repeat it over and over and over again for a few weeks, and it begins to sink into people's minds exactly what did happen. Man, oh man, it's going to hit the fan, and people are going to be indicted because we'll demand it. Well, there are a lot of redactions in that 412-page FISA report. There are a lot of redactions. But there are certain things that a lot of people are suggesting, well, maybe that's redacted, but it's in there, it's redacted. But, you know, a lot of people are not believing that. I'm one of those people. I don't believe, for instance, there's a lot of people saying, well, yeah, this is probably in there, but it's redacted. I don't think so. Based on what Goodlatte and Gowdy and Nunes have stated, especially from the Nunes memo, it appears that these things were not just redacted out of the report. They were never part of the FISA application. And some of those things would be that, for instance, these are some things that are in here that are unredacted, and then there's other things that are redacted that people are questioning. So let me go through a few of these with the few minutes I have left. So in this particular FISA application, you see where they use the term when describing the source. They use the term research, talking about Christopher Steele doing research. But he wasn't doing research, and they know it. Again, it's a lie. They know what he was really doing was opposition research. And opposition research, paid opposition research for a political campaign, a political opponent, is a lot different than an intelligence officer doing research. Big difference between an intelligence officer doing research and a former intelligence officer doing political opposition research for one party or one candidate. But they call it again, it's a way of misleading. It's a way of misleading the FISA court, knowingly, using the word research to describe what Steele was doing, when in fact it was opposition research. And we know that he wasn't even doing the research. He said he wasn't doing the research. He wasn't going out to these people and doing research. He said he didn't go out and get the information. It came to him. In the FISA Carter Page surveillance warrant application, it says it only describes Perkins and Coie as the law firm. The law firm. A law firm. They don't say the name of the law firm, even though they knew the name of the law firm. They knew that the law firm was Perkins and Coie. They knew that that law firm represented the Right Reverend Clinton. They knew that law firm also represented the DNC. They knew the main lawyer from there, Mark Elias, was both a personal attorney to Hillary Clinton and John Podesta. Yet they never, and they knew that they were also the ones that hired CrowdStrike. They were the ones that hired Fusion GPS. Yet they never mentioned any of that. And they describe them in the document as law firm, and don't say to the FISA court any of these other things. Again, another classic case, it's lying by omission. They omit the name of the FBI agent that brought the application forward. Now, I have to assume by now that Goodlatte and Gowdy and Nunes and the boys that's probably something they definitely wanted to know, that they probably saw was redacted, and that they probably do know the name of that person, but we don't. It is redacted. So they don't give you the name of the FBI agent that actually brought the application forward. But I would have to think it had to be either Peter's been Strokinus or maybe McCabe. I don't know who else at that level. When you look at who the players were, Yates and all these people, Strzok and McCabe are the two top-tier FBI agents that are really involved there. So I would have to think that that would have to be, most likely would have to be McCabe or Peter's been Strokinus, had to be one of the two FBI agents that brought that application forward. But they do not name them. It's redacted. We need to find out who that is. And the Goodlatte and those guys, I'm sure they already have that information. We just don't know it. So yes, there are many, many lies that were told, both actual straight-up lies and many lies of omission. They weren't straight up with the FISA court. And that's a problem, because it's a secret court that only gets to hear one side of the evidence. They all know how the FISA court works. You are supposed to be looking at both sides and representing both sides. Anything that's exculpatory, you are responsible, just as responsible as you are for showing the other side of the evidence. It's the only way that the FISA judges can get to be able to make a decision, getting both sides. But they clearly, in the FISA warrant application against Carter Page, drummed this thing up. He was never meant to be the target. It was always meant to target other people within the Trump campaign that were going to be able to use two hops so that they could do that. And they manipulated and falsified and lied by omission. They told straight up lies, and they've told many lies since then about this. Comey sat right there a month. He sat right there in July, I guess it was, and told the Congress that the Dossier was salacious and unverified, and then 2 months later, he's signing off on the FISA application using the salacious and phony dossier. A lot of these guys are going to jail, man. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're all out of time. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See you guys. Bye.